Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight series. My name is Claudia Thompson, and today I'm here with Darren Mooney, founder and creative director at StudioGlobal. Hello and welcome, Darren. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Why don't you start us off by telling us who you are and what it is you do?
I am the founder and creative director of Studio Global. We are a storytelling based creative agency based in Boscombe, Bournemouth. We've been going for about 20, coming up 25 years now. Evolved from traditional graphic design, then we bought presses, then we evolved into digital marketing through like web. And now we've evolved into like a visual film, media, and obviously traditional graphic design agency. But we kind of fuse all of those things beautifully to create amazing films and stories that communicate what a business does, but in a really emotive and effective way.
Wow. And you've been going for 25 years. And
25 years, yeah.
yeah, in those 25 years, we've seen so many changes in terms of technology. AI is only one new thing on the horizon, but how or what would you say kept you going or helped you grow over all these years?
I think the biggest thing is having people around me that are great at the things that I'm not good at. And I think it's sort of identifying early on in the business that the things that you don't love to do, we didn't have that luxury. I think if I could do it all again, I would make sure I had enough funding to kind of start, like you see with these fintech startup companies that they start with an MD and an FD and a marketing manager. And, I think if I did it all again, I'd 100%, have great people in key positions. We grew global, but we grew it the long and the hard way, learning as we were going and doing lots of jobs and things that, we didn't really know how to do and didn't really do very well at that point, because we just didn't know anything different. But I think it was that blind resilience that just kept you going, and has probably kept us alive for, 25 years. So
Yeah, wow. So knowing when to ask for help.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, showing vulnerability is something that I think is probably really undervalued
Mm.
as a business leader. And I think, it comes from that. I think that in business, there's still a lot of stigma that you should be, you should know everything and you should be able to do everything. And I think to a degree that's true. But likewise, nobody's a master of everything, And I think showing vulnerability and asking for help is something that when we, we've got a creative studio, and the first thing I say to people is like, right, who needs some support? What can we do? Is anyone struggling on anything? And certainly that's how we solve problems in a creative studio is, we all gather around and we go, right, what about doing it this way? Or, have you thought about this? Or, because we need to be really efficient with our time, designing things can take forever, or you can be really efficient with it if you're very decisive in your decisions. And I think it's opening yourself up to um people around you and trusting them, with your emotion and the fact that actually, is this great or am I going mad? And then I think we've always been honest in our studio, and the people that we've employed are honest people, and you kind of know deep down if you're on a great path with a brand or a logo or a visual. But you'll still look over your shoulder and go, look, am I going crazy here? Is this good, or am I wasting my time? Because essentially for us to be efficient and be profitable, we need to be efficient with our time and make decisions quickly. Otherwise, we end up burning hours on stuff that just isn't good. So that's one thing I've learned, is to kind of go, look, guys, is this good? What do you think? And then we hone things very quickly as a team. And everybody in our studio does that. So whether it's animation, whether it's video, whether it's, branding, we work very collaboratively. And I think that's why our work is of such a high standard, because essentially one designer is working on it, but actually you get 3 or 4 people's input that you trust, so
Yeah. Sounds like you've created quite an open, honest, trusting environment. And
I hope so.
I suppose that when you're then looking to recruit someone new into this or quite delicate or quite established environment, what, apart from skill, what other, I guess, abilities do you look for to make sure you get the right people on the boat, in the boat?
Obviously they have to be talented in design, but I think having somebody that is willing to take criticism well, because we're all experts, but ultimately design is very opinionated. And designers by their nature tend to be quite emotional people, and when we're designing something, it's literally giving our heart and soul into this visual or this logo, so when somebody turns around, and it happens, thankfully not too often, but it does happen, it's really heartbreaking when they go, it's not right for us. So I'm a big believer in having somebody that's open to, constructive criticism, and also open to collaborative working. I think, that's really important for me. When we employ people, we say we work very collaboratively on stuff, and, taking criticism, and also, from clients too. It's a difficult thing. It's probably one of the hardest things I would say about having a creative business, is that you don't always get it right every time. So you've got to learn that there's other reasons that maybe it just isn't right for that brief, or, not for that client, or quite often there's other reasons that are beyond our control, but thankfully it doesn't happen too often. And we've got a really talented team upstairs, and, we get it right a lot more times than we get it wrong, for sure.
You've been around for 25 years. You must be doing something
There
right.
is that. Experience counts for a lot too, I think. So
Yeah. You get away with it.
yeah, exactly.
And what would you say have been your biggest learnings as an employer?
Um, Always employ people that are better at you than you are. I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of business owners have too bigger egos, and they don't want anyone in their business that is threatening to them. And I'm just the polar opposite of that. I said, employ the best people you can, um, even if they are better than you, and that's only going to make your business better and stronger, and find a path for them to grow within your business. you know um don't feel threatened by the people you employ. It's just madness. You want the best people around you, and that's only going to improve your business.
Mm. Yeah, very true. And there's probably a lot of people watching this right now, and they think, yeah, but my business is my baby. I can't let it go.
Yeah,
I
and
can't let
learn to
other people.
delegate. Learn to delegate very quickly. You can't do everything, and actually, sometimes, my role's changed a lot. Very much so recently, in a sense that I want to build relationships with clients. And, when COVID hit, we had to strip right back, and I was back literally, billing hours and designing stuff. And our relationships with our client and our kind of business development suffered for that, but it was just what every business had to do to survive through COVID. Now I'm kind of back splitting my time between looking after customers, having creative discussions very early on about briefs, and trying to bring in, the work through, I guess, sort of giving little trinkets of creative knowledge. I was with a client this morning, and they had an event, and they didn't really know how to market it. And, I kind of gave them a little trinket of, why don't you run a competition that's related to the event that you're doing, so you can market pre-event, and then also get another opportunity to sit with that client, after the event, and get more time with them. And it was like, we hadn't even thought about doing it that way, So I think creative thinking in businesses, there's a lot of businesses that don't think they need kind of creativity or creative thinking, and kind of more for them, I would say, because it's not just about designing things that look great. It's about thinking differently about things.
Mm.
And I think that's what really separates, the businesses. You can really tell the businesses that do embrace creative thinking,
Mm.
so.
Mm. Cool. And you already mentioned earlier that if you had to start from scratch again, you would look into funding a lot earlier on. Is there anything else that you would maybe do differently with what you know now?
God, I think other than having great people around you as early as you can, I would probably say be prepared to. I think when you start a business, and again, this is very true. When the first year you don't make money, the second year you break even, and the third year you start to make money. So be prepared for a long and hard winter, I think is to quote Game of Thrones, is probably the best way to do it. I think it's really hard. You have to be resilient. You have to be strong. I think also be prepared for, kind of emotional and mental challenges. I think having your own business is a real big strain on, the people around you. I think I've learned that the hard way. And I think a lot of people, when they start their businesses, like everything, and they put it in front of their families and people around them, and they feel like they're doing the right thing, but likewise they're also then damaging their own physical and mental health. And I think having a balance and having good people around you that you can talk to, and if you haven't, then find somebody that can support you from that perspective, because it's a physical and mental challenge running a business, and it's an emotional roller coaster, I would say, but it's also the best thing I've ever done. So it's a challenge and a great ride. If it was a ride at Disney, I'd literally get off at one end and go back on it again, and get off at one end and go back on it again. But yeah, just be prepared for what you're signing up for. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah, no, it does. There's lots of lessons in there for everyone. And I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people start their own business because they think, oh yes, I'm really good at insert skill here, so I'm going to start my own business. And then they're in a few months in, and then they think, oh, it's not working. I'm not rich yet. So it's a
Yeah.
really good reminder that it just does take time.
Yeah, I like it. Be prepared for a long, hard winter. I think that's the best way to describe it. So
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And you touched on it there, how having a business can be a bit of a strain or can put a strain on your relationships. And you definitely sound like a busy man yourself. But how do you personally manage to balance your work person and your personal private person?
um I learned to switch off, which is not easy. And I think nowadays with mobile phones and, you can be on 24/7. And I think it's important that, you get to a certain time and then your phone goes off or it goes on do not disturb. And, but also I think taking time for yourself is really important, making sure you're physically and emotionally fit, as well as, kind of training yourself up in the skills that you need to do your job. But being physically and emotionally fit is just as important as being knowledgeable in the industry you're in, because if you're either one of those things aren't right, then it has a massive impact on your performance and how you react to people and when you face challenges. And, so I think looking after your personal well-being is just as important as looking after your professional well-being. So I think running is great for me. That's my, release. Gives me time to think. And, I used to play a lot of football and I got too old to do that. So I kind of took up running and swimming, and I find those two are really helpful to just switch off and focus on, because quite often that's when, certainly as a designer, that's when the magic happens and the brief and the answers come and flow, when you're not thinking about the project or the challenge or the problem you've got to solve.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well for someone who needs to be creative and who needs those sparks of
Yeah, those moments
those
only come.
ideas. It's so important to just take that time out and be like, no, I'm not being creative. I'm not producing anything valuable right now because I'm so stressed and so stuck in what I'm doing.
Yeah,
It's a really good
for
one.
sure.
Yeah, great. And that already brings us to our last question. What would you say are some common misconceptions that people have around running a business, and how do you usually address them?
I think a lot of people think it's going to be easy. And like you say, they kind of start day one. And I think for me, common misconceptions are that you're going to be rich very quickly. And that does happen in some industries. If you're lucky, I think it's great. But I think the businesses that tend to last the longest are the ones that have grown organically and grown, through winning one client, winning another client, winning another client, and that can take weeks, it can take years, to do that. But I think it's the misconception is that it's not hard work, and it is. but it is also the most enlightening and rewarding job, to say that you've had a business for 25 years like I can and survive 25 years of an agency is, I'm really proud of that. And we have been really successful and then not so successful. But I think the fact that we've got a great reputation, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that I'm proud of. And we do things the right way. We look after our clients and we put our clients, kind of getting onto another point. I think just making sure that your clients' happiness is at the forefront of your business, even when it is quite strenuous and taxing, But yeah, I think just be prepared for the journey ahead, but also enjoy it and get the right balance between, health, family, and the business. So, and I think you can do that very early on as to whether you're going to start a lifestyle business, so it's going to fit around your family and your personal life, or are you starting a business that you want to grow and turn into kind of everything in this big empire? Because the two are very different, and you have to approach them very differently.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's definitely something that well, it's usually when people they're either in this in this zone when they could decide to build it into a big empire, maybe go franchising or
Yeah,
go down that route, or stick with what they have in quotation marks. And yeah, no, that's really, really valuable to have an idea where you want to go, what it is you want to.
yeah, and what how does the business fit around you and your life? I think that's a really important thing to think about, and it's quite difficult because if you're good at what you do, the challenge will be not growing, because you always think, oh, actually, maybe I should do this. And then actually quite often a lifestyle business turns into the other, you
Mm.
know, and then it's managing that process. But it happens and you see a lot of really good successful businesses that started as lifestyle businesses
Mm.
and have grown into huge empires.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you, Darren, so much for your time and for sharing your lessons. How can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Obviously, can find me under my name, and creative director of Studio Global. Our web address is studioglobal.co.uk. So you can always get in contact through us there. And yeah, we'd love to talk to people.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Great. Thank you for your time too.